Zeftar stood at the edge of the human settlement, his forearms trembling as he held the dying creature against his chest. The small feline beast's breathing came in short, painful gasps. Her once bright silver fur had dulled to a sickly gray, and her usually alert amber eyes were clouded with pain. The Calaxian diplomat had tried everything his advanced medical knowledge could offer. The best doctors on his home world had examined Nixa through quantum scans and molecular analysis. They had prescribed treatments using technology that could reshape matter at the atomic level. Nothing worked. The rare neural decay syndrome that plagued his beloved companion was beyond even their sophisticated healing methods. "Sir, are you certain about this?" asked Lieutenant Vox, his security escort. The younger Calaxian's skin showed patches of nervous blue coloration. "The humans are primitive. Their medical technology is thousands of years behind ours." Zeftar's own skin rippled with conflicted emotions, purple streaks of desperation mixing with orange patches of doubt. He had been the chief cultural exchange officer between the Calaxian Empire and Earth for 3 cycles now. In all that time, he had maintained professional distance from the strange bipedal creatures. They were useful allies, yes, but their ways were often baffling and crude. "I have exhausted every option," Zeftar said quietly, his voice carrying the harmonic undertones that made his species' speech sound like music. "The Council of Healers has declared Nixa's condition terminal. If she is to die, perhaps it should be somewhere peaceful." The human settlement of New Haven stretched before them, a modest collection of buildings that housed about 2,000 colonists. It was nothing impressive by Calaxian standards. No crystalline spires reaching into the sky, no anti-gravity platforms gliding between structures. Just simple metal and concrete buildings arranged around a central square. What had drawn Zeftar here wasn't the settlement itself, but something he had observed during his cultural studies. The humans had an unusual relationship with small creatures. They kept them in their homes, not for food or labor, but for something they called companionship. More puzzling still, they seemed to pour enormous effort into caring for these creatures when they became ill. As they approached the settlement's main gate, a human security guard stepped forward. She was young, maybe 20 standard years, with dark hair pulled back in a practical style and kind brown eyes. A small metal badge identified her as Sarah Chen, Colonial Security. "Ambassador Zeftar," she said with a respectful nod. Her pronunciation of his name was careful, if imperfect. "We weren't expecting you today. Is everything all right?" Zeftar hesitated. In all his diplomatic training, he had never prepared for a moment like this. How did one explain that the most advanced species in the known galaxy was seeking help from beings who still used chemical combustion for transportation? I require assistance," he said finally, his usual formal tone wavering. "My companion is dying, and our medicine has failed." Sarah's eyes immediately went to the small creature in his arms. Her expression changed instantly, the professional politeness replaced by genuine concern. "Oh my goodness, what happened to her? She looks so sick." "Nixa has what your language might call a brain disease," Zeftar explained. "The neural pathways in her mind are breaking down. Our doctors say there is no cure." Sarah stepped closer, and Zeftar instinctively tensed. But the human's movements were gentle, her voice soft. "May I?" she asked, extending her hand slightly. Something in her tone made Zeftar's resistance crumble. Carefully, he placed Nixa into Sarah's arms. The human girl immediately cradled the dying creature against her chest, making soft, soothing sounds. "Hey there, beautiful," Sarah whispered to Nixa. "You're going to be okay. We're going to take good care of you." Lieutenant Vox made a sound of disapproval. "Sir, surely you're not seriously considering—" "I am," Zeftar cut him off. He watched as Sarah continued to hold Nixa, her hands gentle but confident. There was something in the way she moved, the way she spoke to the creature, that reminded him of the old Calaxian legends about the first healers of his people. "I don't know if we can help," Sarah said honestly, "but I know someone who might. My grandmother, Anna Chen, she runs a veterinary clinic here. She's helped with all kinds of animals over the years." "A veterinary clinic?" Zeftar's translator struggled with the unfamiliar term. "She's a doctor for animals," Sarah explained. "Not as advanced as your medicine, I'm sure, but she has a way with sick creatures. She always says that healing isn't just about the tools you use, but about understanding what the animal needs." Lieutenant Vox spoke up again. "Ambassador, this is highly irregular. The Galactic Protocol clearly states that advanced medical cases should only be handled by certified xenobiological specialists." "The certified specialists have failed," Zeftar said firmly. His skin was now showing streaks of gold, the color of desperate hope. "Perhaps it is time to try something different." Sarah looked between the two aliens, sensing the tension. "Look, I can't make any promises, but if you want to try, my grandmother would never turn away a sick animal. She's that kind of person." "What would this treatment cost?" Zeftar asked. In Calaxian society, advanced medical care was expensive, requiring rare minerals and complex technology. Sarah blinked in confusion. "Cost? Nothing. My grandmother doesn't charge for emergencies. She says helping sick animals is just the right thing to do." This statement hit Zeftar like a physical blow. No payment? Among his people, even basic medical scans required significant resources. The idea that someone would provide care without compensation was almost incomprehensible. I do not understand," he said slowly. Sarah smiled, though sadness touched her eyes as she looked down at Nixa. "Maybe that's why you came here. Sometimes understanding isn't necessary for helping." She began walking toward the settlement's interior, still carrying Nixa. "Come on, my grandmother's clinic is this way. Fair warning, though, she can be a bit overwhelming at first." Zeftar followed, his mind spinning with questions. Lieutenant Vox trailed behind, clearly uncomfortable with the entire situation. As they walked through the settlement, Zeftar observed the humans going about their daily activities. Children played in small parks, while adults tended gardens or repaired equipment. Several people had small creatures with them. Some furry, some feathered, all clearly cared for. "Why do your people keep these animals?" Zeftar asked as they walked. Sarah glanced at him with surprise. "You mean pets?" "Well, lots of reasons. They're good company. They make us happy. Some people say taking care of something else makes you a better person." She looked down at Nixa. "Plus, they give us purpose. Something to love that depends on us." These concepts were foreign to Calaxian thinking. Their society was built on efficiency, logic, and advancement. Emotional attachments were considered wasteful unless they served a clear purpose. They stopped before a small building with a hand-painted sign reading New Haven Animal Clinic. Through the windows, Zeftar could see basic equipment, nothing that looked particularly sophisticated. Doubt began creeping back into his mind. "Grandma Anna," Sarah called as they entered. "We have an emergency." An older human woman emerged from a back room. She was small and weathered, with silver hair and hands marked by years of work, but her eyes were sharp and kind, and when she saw Nixa in Sarah's arms, she moved with surprising speed. "What do we have here?" Anna asked, immediately taking the creature from Sarah. Her hands moved over Nixa with practiced expertise, checking vital signs in ways that seemed primitive but thorough. "This is Ambassador Zeftar," Sarah explained. "This is his companion, Nixa. She's dying from some kind of brain disease. Their doctors couldn't help." Anna looked up at Zeftar with intense scrutiny. "What exactly is wrong with her?" Zeftar explained Nixa's condition as best he could in terms the humans might understand. Anna listened intently, asking questions that surprised him with their insight. Despite her primitive tools, she seemed to grasp the complexity of the situation quickly. "Neural pathway degradation," Anna murmured when he finished. "We see something similar in earth cats sometimes, usually caused by inflammation or toxin buildup." She looked up at him. "Your doctors focused on the symptoms, didn't they? Trying to repair the damaged pathways directly?" "Yes," Zeftar said, startled by her understanding. "They used quantum reconstruction therapy to rebuild the neural networks, but the damage continued spreading." Anna nodded grimly. "Probably made it worse. If something is causing ongoing damage, rebuilding just gives it more targets." She carried Nixa to an examination table. "We need to find what's attacking her brain in the first place." "But your equipment," Lieutenant Vox began. "Won't show me what a computer scan will," Anna interrupted, "but it might show me something your computers missed." She looked at Zeftar seriously. "I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I can help, but if you're willing to try, I'll do everything I can." Zeftar felt something shift inside him. This elderly human woman, with her primitive clinic and basic tools, was offering the same thing his people's most advanced medical facilities had failed to provide: hope. "What do you need from me?" he asked. Anna smiled. "First, I need you to tell me everything about Nixa. Not just her medical history, but her personality, her habits, what she likes to eat, how she plays. Everything." "But how is that relevant to her medical condition?" "Because healing isn't just about fixing broken parts," Anna said, gently stroking Nixa's fur. "It's about understanding the whole creature. Sometimes what makes them sick is connected to how they live, what they experience, what makes them happy or sad." This approach was entirely foreign to Calaxian medicine, which focused on precise molecular intervention. But as Zeftar began talking about Nixa, describing how she loved to chase light patterns on the wall, how she always slept curled up against his shoulder, how she would purr when he read his reports aloud, he realized something. For all their advanced technology, his people's doctors had never asked these questions. They had treated Nixa as a collection of biological systems to be repaired, not as an individual with her own unique needs and experiences. Anna listened to every detail, occasionally asking for clarification. Sarah assisted by preparing various instruments and medications, moving with an efficiency that spoke of long practice. Even Lieutenant Vox found himself drawn into the conversation, sharing observations about Nixa's behavior during their travels. "All right," Anna said finally. "Let's start with some basic tests. But I want you to stay close, Zeftar. Keep talking to her. She needs to know you're here." As Anna began her examination, using tools that seemed impossibly crude compared to Calaxian medical technology, Zeftar found himself holding Nixa's tiny paw and speaking to her in the soft tones he used when reading her bedtime stories. For the first time since her illness began, Nixa's eyes seemed to focus on him with a hint of recognition. "That's good," Anna said softly, noting the response. "She's still fighting. Now we need to figure out what she's fighting against." The examination continued for over an hour. Anna worked methodically, but there was something almost intuitive about her approach. She seemed to notice things that sophisticated sensors had missed. The way Nixa favored one side when lying down, the slight tremor in her left hind leg, the way her pupils dilated differently under light. "Have you traveled to any new worlds recently?" Anna asked suddenly. "Several," Zeftar replied. "My duties require extensive travel for cultural exchanges." "Any worlds with unusual atmospheric compositions, different gravity, strange plant life?" Zeftar thought back. "We visited Zerion Prime 3 weeks ago. It has a high sulfur content in the atmosphere, and the gravity is 1.3 times Calaxian standard." Anna's eyes sharpened. "What about the plant life there? Any unique species? There are crystalline vegetation forms that release spores into the air. They're harmless to most species. Our environmental suits filtered them out. Most species, Anna repeated thoughtfully. She continued her examination, paying special attention to Nix's respiratory system. Sarah, hand me that spectrometer. As Anna worked, she explained her thinking. Sometimes the most advanced medicine misses the simplest causes. If these spores were designed to affect carbon-based neural networks, they might not show up on typical alien medical scans, but they could accumulate slowly, causing exactly the kind of damage you're describing. But that's impossible, Lieutenant Vox protested. Our environmental suits have quantum-level filtration. Nothing could get through. Anna looked up at him with a slight smile. Tell me, do you ever remove the suits for short periods? Maybe to interact more naturally with the local population? Zeftar's skin went completely white, the Calaxian equivalent of shock. During the cultural ceremony, yes. It seemed disrespectful to meet their spiritual leaders while wearing protective gear, but only for a few minutes. A few minutes might be all it took, Anna said. Especially if Nixa was with you and got a direct exposure. These spores are probably still in her system, slowly poisoning her neural pathways. No amount of reconstruction will help until we get them out. But how do we remove something that our most advanced medical technology cannot detect? Zeftar asked. Anna's smile widened. With the oldest medical technology in the universe, we're going to help her body heal itself. She moved to a cabinet and began pulling out various bottles and containers. Sarah, start preparing a saline IV drip. We need to flush her system gently while supporting her body's natural detox processes. As Anna began mixing what looked like a simple herbal solution, Zeftar felt a mixture of hope and disbelief. Could it really be this simple? Could his people's centuries of advanced medical research have overlooked something so basic? Why don't your people use these methods? Sarah asked, as if reading his thoughts. Because we have moved beyond such primitive approaches, Zeftar said automatically, then paused. Or perhaps we have forgotten that sophistication and effectiveness are not always the same thing. Anna prepared several treatments, some involving nutrients to support Nixa's immune system, others designed to gently encourage her body to eliminate toxins. None of it looked particularly impressive. But Zeftar found himself fascinated by the human woman's confidence and expertise. This will take time, Anna warned as she administered the first treatment. Days, maybe weeks. It's not like your quick technological fixes, but if I'm right about the spores, her body just needs support to do what it already knows how to do, heal itself. I can arrange for extended diplomatic quarters, Zeftar said without hesitation. Lieutenant Vox looked shocked at this breach of protocol, but Zeftar ignored him. Actually, Sarah said thoughtfully, you could stay with us. We have a spare room, and it might be better for Nixa to be in a quiet, stable environment while she recovers. The offer stunned Zeftar. Not only were these humans offering to help without payment, but they were also inviting him into their home, something that would require tremendous trust given the vast differences between their species. You would allow this? He asked. Of course, Anna said simply. Taking care of the sick is what we do. Besides, Nixa will recover faster if you're nearby. Animals heal better when they feel loved and secure. As the day continued, Zeftar found himself integrated into the daily routine of the clinic. Anna taught him how to monitor Nixa's progress using simple but effective methods. Sarah showed him how to prepare the nutrients that would support Nixa's recovery. Even Lieutenant Vox, initially resistant, found himself helping with basic tasks. Your medical philosophy is very different from ours, Zeftar observed as they worked. How so? Anna asked. We focus on correcting problems through technological intervention. You seem to focus on supporting natural healing processes. Anna nodded. Both approaches have their place, But sometimes the most sophisticated solution isn't the best one. Sometimes what a sick creature needs most is patience, gentleness, and time. As evening approached, Nixa seemed slightly more alert. Her breathing was still labored, but some color had returned to her eyes. Zeftar sat beside her small bed, gently stroking her fur while she slept. "She looks a little better," Sarah observed, sitting down beside him. "Perhaps," Zeftar said cautiously. He had been disappointed too many times to allow hope to grow too quickly. "Your grandmother is remarkable. Her approach is unlike anything I have encountered." "She's been doing this for 60 years, Sarah said with pride. "She always says that healing is as much art as science. You have to understand not just what's wrong, but what's right that needs to be supported. In our society, such intuitive approaches are considered unscientific." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Maybe that's why you came here. Maybe sometimes being unscientific is exactly what you need." As night fell over New Haven, Zeftar remained by Nixa's side. For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to believe that perhaps his beloved companion might survive. More than that, he began to understand that he had stumbled onto something far more significant than just alternative medical treatment. He had discovered that sometimes the most advanced beings in the galaxy had something to learn from those they considered primitive. And sometimes, the most powerful healing came not from sophisticated technology, but from simple compassion, patience, and the willingness to try when others had given up. The night passed quietly, with Anna checking on Nixa every few hours and adjusting her treatments based on subtle changes in her condition. Zeftar dozed fitfully in a chair beside the small bed, his dreams filled with images of his companion running and playing as she had before the illness took hold. When dawn broke over New Haven, bringing with it the promise of a new day, Nixa opened her eyes and looked directly at Zeftar with an alertness he hadn't seen in weeks. It was a small improvement, but it was improvement nonetheless. And in that moment, Zeftar understood that he was witnessing something that would change not just Nixa's fate, but his understanding of what it truly meant to heal. Over the next week, Zeftar watched in amazement as Nixa's condition slowly improved under Anna's care. The elderly human woman had moved the small creature to a special recovery area in her home, complete with soft bedding, carefully controlled lighting, and a constant supply of the herbal treatments she had prepared. "The key is consistency," Anna explained as she showed Zeftar how to administer the morning dose of nutrients. "Her body is working hard to eliminate the toxins. We need to support that process every few hours, but gently. No sudden changes, no aggressive interventions." Zeftar found himself fascinated not just by the treatments themselves, but by the entire approach. In Calaxian hospitals, patients were monitored by sophisticated computers and treated with precise mechanical efficiency. Here, Anna relied on careful observation, intuition, and what she called reading the animal. "See how her ears are positioned?" Anna pointed out during one of her examinations. "Yesterday, they were flat against her head. That's pain and fear. Today, they're alert but relaxed. She's feeling safer." "How can ear position be medically relevant?" Zeftar asked. Anna smiled patiently. "Stress hormones suppress immune function. If Nixa feels safe and loved, her body can focus energy on healing instead of worrying. It's basic biology, just not the kind you measure with machines." Sarah had taken vacation time from her security duties to help with Nixa's care. Zeftar was struck by this sacrifice. She received no compensation for the time, yet she treated it as if caring for Nixa was the most important job in the settlement. "Don't you have other responsibilities?" he asked her one afternoon as she gently exercised Nixa's weakened limbs. "Of course," Sarah replied, moving Nixa's tiny paw through gentle stretching motions. "But Mrs. Patterson can cover my security shifts. This is more important right now." "More important than your career?" Sarah paused and looked at him with genuine confusion. Zeftar, there's a living creature who needs help. How could anything be more important than that? The simplicity of her answer disturbed something deep in Zeftar's worldview. In Calaxian society, career advancement and social status were paramount. Personal sacrifice for others, especially non-Calaxians, was considered inefficient and somewhat irrational. "But what do you gain from this?" he pressed. Sarah resumed the physical therapy, her movements gentle but determined. "I gain the knowledge that I helped someone who needed it. That's enough." Lieutenant Vox, who had initially planned to return to the Calaxian embassy after a day, found himself staying as well. He claimed it was for security reasons, but Zeftar noticed how often the young officer could be found helping with basic care tasks. "Sir," Vox said one evening as they prepared Nixa's bedtime treatment, "I've been thinking about what the human female said, about stress affecting immune function." "Yes?" "Well, our medical protocols emphasize sterile environments, minimal external stimulation, and isolation to prevent contamination. But what if that approach actually hinders healing by increasing stress?" Zeftar considered this. "You're suggesting our medical practices might be counterproductive." "I'm suggesting maybe these humans understand something we don't," Vox said carefully. "Look at Nixa. She's surrounded by unfamiliar beings in a primitive facility, yet she's improving faster than she did in our most advanced medical centers." It was true. Each day brought visible improvements. Nixa's fur was regaining its silver sheen, her eyes were brighter, and she had begun to show interest in food again. Most remarkably, she had started to respond positively not just to Zeftar, but to Anna and Sarah as well. "She likes them," Zeftar observed one morning, watching as Nixa actually purred when Sarah gently scratched behind her ears. "Animals are good judges of character," Anna said. "They can sense when someone genuinely cares about their well-being. But they are alien to her. Different species entirely. So are you, compared to us," Anna pointed out with a smile. "But caring doesn't require biological similarity. It just requires compassion." On the 10th day, something extraordinary happened. Zeftar woke to find Nixa sitting up in her bed, looking around with genuine alertness. When she saw him, she made the soft chirping sound that meant she was happy, a sound he hadn't heard in over a month. "Anna! Sarah!" he called excitedly. "She's responding!" Both humans hurried in to see Nixa attempting to stand on shaky legs. Anna immediately began a gentle examination, but her face broke into a wide smile. "Her neural responses are definitely improving," Anna announced. "The cloudiness in her eyes is almost gone, and look, her coordination is coming back." Sarah clapped her hands in delight. "She's going to be okay." But even as celebration filled the room, Zeftar noticed something that puzzled him. Nixa wasn't just recovering her previous health. She seemed somehow different, more responsive, more aware. It was as if the healing process had awakened something in her that hadn't been there before. "Anna," he said slowly, "is it normal for patients to seem enhanced after recovery from neural toxicity?" Anna frowned thoughtfully. "Enhanced how?" "Her awareness seems heightened. She's responding to verbal cues she's never understood before. And look." He pointed to where Nixa was carefully manipulating a small puzzle toy Sarah had given her, something that would have been far too complex for her species normally. Anna observed Nixa for several minutes, her expression growing increasingly thoughtful. "That is unusual," she admitted. "But then again, we're dealing with an alien species and an unknown toxin. The healing process might have triggered neurological development that wouldn't occur naturally." Lieutenant Vox leaned closer. "Development how?" "Well," Anna said carefully, If the spores damaged certain neural inhibitors while leaving growth pathways intact, removing the toxins might allow for unprecedented neural expansion. It's like, imagine if something was blocking a river, and when you removed the blockage, the water flowed into areas it had never reached before. Sarah gasped. You mean she might be getting smarter? It's possible, Anna said, though we'd need much more observation to be certain. Over the following days, it became clear that Anna's theory was correct. Nixa's cognitive abilities were expanding rapidly. She began to understand simple human words, could solve increasingly complex puzzles, and even started to demonstrate what appeared to be genuine problem-solving skills. This is unprecedented, Zeftar said one morning, watching as Nixa figured out how to open a latch to get to a treat inside a box. Nothing like this has ever been documented in our medical literature. Maybe that's because you never treated the underlying cause before, Sarah suggested. Maybe all those high-tech treatments just managed symptoms while the real problem got worse. Anna nodded thoughtfully. And maybe the stress of those treatments actually inhibited natural healing processes. Nixa's improvement accelerated once she felt safe and loved. But the implications, Zeftar began, then stopped. He was beginning to understand that this situation was far more significant than just one creature's recovery. Lieutenant Vox voiced what Zeftar was thinking. Sir, if this treatment approach is effective for conditions that our medicine cannot cure, shouldn't we be documenting it, studying it? How does one study intuition and compassion? Zeftar asked. Anna overheard and smiled. Very carefully, and with great humility. The moment you turn healing into a formula, you lose the most important ingredient, genuine care for the individual patient. As Nixa's recovery continued, word began to spread through the human settlement. Other colonists came to visit, bringing small gifts and offering congratulations. Zeftar was amazed by the genuine joy these humans expressed over the recovery of a creature that wasn't even their own species. Why do they care so much? He asked Sarah one afternoon, as yet another neighbor stopped by with flowers for Nixa's room. Because we all understand what it feels like to love something and fear losing it, Sarah replied. When we see that love rewarded with healing, it gives us hope for our own losses and fears. Even for an alien creature? Love doesn't have species barriers, Sarah said simply. Pain is pain, joy is joy, healing is healing. These things are universal. This concept challenged everything Zeftar had been taught about interspecies relations. Calaxian doctrine emphasized the importance of maintaining emotional distance from other species to preserve objectivity in diplomatic relations. But watching these humans celebrate Nixa's recovery with genuine happiness, he began to wonder if perhaps emotional connection might actually enhance understanding rather than compromise it. On the 15th day, Dr. Emma Rodriguez, the settlement's chief medical officer, came to examine Nixa. She was particularly interested in the neural enhancement aspect of the recovery. May I run some cognitive tests? She asked Zeftar. Nothing invasive, just simple pattern recognition and problem-solving tasks. The results were remarkable. Nixa demonstrated intelligence levels far beyond what should have been possible for her species. She could understand complex instructions, showed advanced spatial reasoning, and even seemed to grasp cause and effect relationships that typically required much more developed brains. This is incredible, Dr. Rodriguez said, reviewing the test results. According to these measurements, she's operating at near-human levels of intelligence in some areas. But how is that possible? Zeftar asked. I have a theory, Anna said thoughtfully. What if the neural pathways we've been rebuilding weren't damaged pathways but entirely new ones? What if the healing process, combined with the stimulating environment and emotional support, triggered evolutionary development that would normally take thousands of years? Dr. Rodriguez nodded excitedly. It would explain the enhancement. Instead of just recovering her original capabilities, she's developed new ones. Lieutenant Vox looked stunned. Are you saying that human medical treatment didn't just cure Nixa, but actually evolved her? It's possible, Dr. Rodriguez said, though we'd need extensive study to prove it. Sarah was sitting with Nixa during this conversation, gently stroking the creature's fur. What do you think about all this, sweetie? She asked Nixa softly. To everyone's amazement, Nixa looked up at Sarah and made a series of deliberate chirping sounds that seemed clearly intended as communication. Then she walked over to a communication pad Zeftar used for diplomatic correspondence and began manipulating the controls. She's trying to communicate, Zeftar exclaimed. Working together, they helped Nixa access the device's simple drawing program. With careful movements, she began to create shapes and symbols. At first they seemed random, but gradually a pattern emerged, symbols representing concepts like gratitude, affection, and understanding. My God, Dr. Rodriguez whispered, she's developed language capability. Anna smiled, though tears were visible in her eyes. She's trying to say thank you. The room fell silent as the full implications of what they were witnessing began to sink in. Nixa wasn't just recovered, she had been fundamentally transformed by the healing process. The combination of toxin removal, stress reduction, emotional support, and cognitive stimulation had triggered unprecedented evolutionary development. This changes everything, Lieutenant Vox said quietly. Zeftar nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand that they had stumbled onto something far more significant than alternative medicine. They had discovered that healing, when approached with genuine compassion and understanding, could achieve results that pure technology never could. But more than that, they had proven that emotional connection between species wasn't just possible. It could actually catalyze positive development in ways that clinical detachment never could achieve. As he watched Sarah continue to communicate with Nixa through a combination of words, gestures, and symbols, Zeftar realized that everything he thought he knew about medicine, about intelligence, about interspecies relations, was being rewritten before his eyes. What happens now? He asked Anna. Now, Anna said with a smile, Nixa gets to decide what she wants to do with her new capabilities, and you get to decide whether you want to share this story with the rest of the galaxy. Zeftar looked at Nixa, who was now successfully operating the communication device to express complex thoughts and emotions. The little creature who had been dying just weeks ago was now demonstrating intelligence that rivaled many spacefaring species. And it had all happened because a few humans had been willing to offer compassion where others had offered only technology, patience where others had offered only quick fixes, and love where others had offered only professional distance. The question now was whether the rest of the galaxy was ready to learn what these remarkable humans had to teach. 3 weeks later, the Calaxian High Council emergency session was unlike anything in the Empire's recorded history. Representatives from dozens of species had gathered via quantum communication link, all to discuss the unprecedented report filed by Ambassador Zeftar. Council Speaker Malthok's skin displayed the deep purple of severe confusion as she reviewed the documentation for the 5th time. Ambassador, you are claiming that primitive human medical treatment not only cured a terminal condition that our best healers deemed impossible, but also triggered rapid evolutionary development in the patient? Zeftar stood before the massive holographic assembly, Nixa perched confidently on his shoulder. The small creature had insisted on attending the hearing, and her presence had already caused considerable stir among the assembled delegates. That is correct, Council Speaker, Zeftar replied formally. Nixa's cognitive abilities now exceed baseline standards for several spacefaring species, and she has developed complex communication skills. Demonstrate, commanded Dr. Kexelar, the Empire's chief medical advisor. His skepticism was evident in the harsh orange coloration rippling across his skin. Nixa responded before Zeftar could speak. Using the portable communication device they had acquired, she began generating a complex series of mathematical equations, not just simple arithmetic, but advanced theoretical work that would challenge university students. The assembly fell silent. Furthermore, Nixa's translated voice continued through the device, I would like to formally request recognition as a sentient being with full diplomatic rights under Galactic Accord Section 12.7. The silence stretched longer. Several delegates' translator units made concerning buzzing sounds as they struggled to process what they had just heard. Dr. Kexelar was the first to recover. This is impossible. Neural enhancement of this magnitude cannot occur naturally. What technological intervention did the humans use? None, Zeftar replied. Their approach involved herbal nutrients, stress reduction, emotional support, and what they call letting the body heal itself. Herbal nutrients? Dr. Kexelar's skin flashed indignant yellow. Ambassador, you're suggesting that plant extracts accomplished what our quantum neural reconstruction technology could not? I am stating it as documented fact. Council Speaker Malthok leaned forward. Show us this documentation. Zeftar activated a holographic display showing detailed scans of Nixa's brain development over the course of her treatment. The images revealed unprecedented neural growth, new pathway formation, and enhanced connectivity between previously unrelated brain regions. As you can see, Zeftar explained, the healing process didn't just repair damaged areas, it catalyzed development of entirely new neural networks. Dr. Yelvash, representing the Zathari Medical Collective, studied the scans intently. These readings suggest intelligence enhancement beyond what we thought biologically possible for this species. What was the mechanism? According to human Dr. Anna Chen, Zeftar said, the key factors were removing environmental toxins while providing optimal conditions for natural healing, low stress, emotional security, cognitive stimulation, and what she termed genuine care. Genuine care? Council Speaker Malthok's skin rippled with confusion. Define this term. Nixa activated her communication device. If I may, Council Speaker, I can answer that question. The fact that the formerly non-sentient creature was now addressing the High Council directly sent waves of shocked color changes throughout the assembly. Genuine care, Nixa explained, means treating the patient as an individual worthy of attention and compassion rather than as a collection of symptoms to be corrected. The humans, Sarah and Anna, did not see me as an alien creature to be fixed, but as a being who was suffering and deserved help. This is highly irregular, protested Representative Gorth from the Mechanist faction. Medical treatment should be based on scientific protocols, not emotional responses. And yet, Nixa replied calmly, your scientific protocols failed where human compassion succeeded. The challenge hung in the air like a live electrical field. No one in the assembly had ever been directly contradicted by a former patient, particularly one whose intelligence had been considered negligible just weeks earlier. Dr. Kexelar's skin had gone completely red, the color of professional outrage. You cannot seriously suggest that our centuries of medical advancement are inferior to primitive emotional responses. I suggest, Nixa said with remarkable diplomacy, that perhaps advancement and effectiveness are not always the same thing. Lieutenant Vox, who had been granted permission to address the council, stepped forward. If I may, Council Speaker, I observed the entire treatment process. The human approach was not primitive. It was sophisticated in ways our medicine doesn't recognize. Explain, ordered Council Speaker Malthok. Human medical practice considers the patient's emotional state, environmental factors, individual personality, and social connections as integral parts of treatment. They treat the whole being, not just the diseased tissue. Emotional state is irrelevant to cellular regeneration, Dr. Kexlar stated flatly. Actually, Dr. Rodriguez's voice came through the communication link as she joined the session from Earth. That's not true. Stress hormones suppress immune function, disrupt cellular repair mechanisms, and inhibit neural plasticity. Emotional well-being directly impacts physical healing at the molecular level. Dr. Kexalar's skin flickered with uncertainty. You have documentation of this? Thousands of studies spanning decades, Dr. Rodriguez replied. We can provide complete research archives if you're interested. Council Speaker Malthok gestured for silence. Dr. Rodriguez, can you explain how your treatment achieved results our technology could not? Certainly. Your medical scans show you focused on repairing damaged neural pathways using quantum reconstruction. But you never identified what was causing the ongoing damage. The spores from Xerion Prime were still active in Nixa's system, continuing to attack newly repaired tissue. Our environmental filters should have prevented any contamination, Dr. Kexalar insisted. They did prevent most contamination, Dr. Rodriguez agreed. But they were designed for typical biological threats. These spores operate at a quantum level, affecting neural electrochemistry in ways your filters weren't programmed to detect. Then how did you identify them? Asked Dr. Yelvash. We didn't initially. Anna's voice joined the conversation. We just noticed that Nixa's symptoms matched patterns we see in environmental toxin cases. So, we started general detoxification support while providing optimal healing conditions. Optimal healing conditions? Council Speaker Malthok asked. Low stress, consistent care, emotional security, mental stimulation, proper nutrition, and most importantly, the knowledge that she was loved and valued, Anna explained. These conditions allow the body's natural healing mechanisms to work at peak efficiency. And the intelligence enhancement? Dr. Kexlar demanded. Unintended but logical, Dr. Rodriguez replied. When we removed the toxins that were inhibiting neural development while providing an enriched, stimulating environment, Nixa's brain began developing new pathways. The emotional security allowed her to take cognitive risks, trying new behaviors, exploring new concepts, which further accelerated development. Nixa activated her device again. If I may add, Council Speaker, the humans never treated me as if my limitations were permanent. They spoke to me as if I could understand, gave me problems to solve as if I was capable of learning, and showed me affection as if I was worthy of love. Their expectations encouraged me to grow beyond what anyone thought possible. The implications of this statement rippled through the assembly like a shockwave. Several delegates began urgent whispered conferences with their advisors. Representative Sithara of the Education Guild leaned forward. Are you suggesting that patient expectations affect treatment outcomes? I'm stating it as fact, Nixa replied. When someone believes you can heal and grow, it becomes easier to heal and grow. When they treat you as a hopeless case, it becomes harder to recover. Dr. Yelvash's skin showed the silver patterns of deep thought. This would explain some anomalies in our medical statistics. Patients with strong family support often show better outcomes than those treated in isolation. But we maintain isolation to prevent contamination, Dr. Kexalar protested. And in doing so, Nixa said gently, you may be preventing the very emotional support that enhances healing. Council Speaker Malthok called for a brief recess. When the session resumed, her expression was grave. Ambassador Zeftar, the implications of your report are staggering. If human medical philosophy proves superior to our own, it's not about superiority, Zeftar interrupted carefully. It's about recognizing that healing involves more than just tissue repair. The humans understand something we had forgotten, that mind, body, and spirit are connected, and you cannot truly heal one without addressing all three. Spirit? Dr. Kexlar's skin flashed skeptical yellow. That is not a medical term. It is for humans. Sarah's voice joined the conversation. Spirit means the part of a being that chooses to fight or give up, that finds meaning in existence, that connects with others. In our experience, you cannot achieve lasting healing without addressing spiritual well-being. This is hardly scientific, Representative Gorth objected. Neither was most of your medicine until recently, Dr. Rodriguez pointed out. The scientific method involves observing results and adjusting theories accordingly. The results speak for themselves. Council Speaker Malthok studied the assembly carefully. Dr. Rodriguez, would your people be willing to share this knowledge more broadly, to teach our medical practitioners these approaches? Of course, Dr. Rodriguez replied immediately. Healing knowledge belongs to everyone. But there's something you need to understand. You can't just add compassion as another medical tool. The entire philosophy has to change. How so? Asked Dr. Yelvash. Anna's voice carried gentle authority. You have to start seeing patients as individuals, not cases. You have to care about their well-being, not just their symptoms. And you have to accept that sometimes the most advanced treatment is also the most simple. Patience, kindness, and genuine love. Love, Dr. Kexlar sputtered. In medical practice? Love is what drove Zeftar to keep searching for help when all hope seemed lost, Anna replied. Love is what motivated us to take on a case we might fail. Love is what gave Nixa the courage to fight through her illness. How can you heal without it? The question hung in the air like a challenge to everything the assembled medical professionals thought they knew about their field. Nixa activated her device one final time. Honored council members, I stand before you as living proof that healing is possible when approached with wisdom, compassion, and hope. The humans didn't just cure my illness, they awakened capabilities I never knew I possessed. They did this not through advanced technology, but through the simple act of caring about my well-being. She paused, and when she continued, her translated voice carried an emotional depth that stunned the assembly. They gave me the greatest gift possible, not just life, but a life worth living. They showed me that I mattered, that my suffering was worth alleviating, that my potential was worth nurturing. In return, I learned that the capacity for growth, love, and connection transcends species boundaries. I formally request, Nixa continued, that the Galactic Medical Council establish an exchange program with Earth. Let our healers learn these human approaches. Let us discover what other impossible healings become possible when we combine our technology with their wisdom. And I formally second that request, Zeftar added. As ambassador, I recommend full diplomatic cooperation with Earth's medical community. Council Speaker Malthok looked around the assembly, noting the unprecedented display of unified agreement among species that rarely agreed on anything. Very well. By unanimous consent, this council authorizes the establishment of the Galactic Terran Medical Exchange Program. Dr. Kexelar's skin had shifted to the gold of grudging respect. I formally request to be among the first participants. These results cannot be ignored. As the session concluded, delegates from across the galaxy began requesting information about human medical philosophy. Research facilities started planning studies on the connection between emotional well-being and physical healing. Medical schools began drafting new curricula that would include compassion training alongside technical instruction. Later that evening, as Zeftar prepared to return to New Haven with Nixa, Council Speaker Malthok contacted him privately. Ambassador, you understand that you have fundamentally altered our understanding of medicine, intelligence development, and interspecies relations? I understand that I witnessed something remarkable, Zeftar replied, but the credit belongs to the humans who saw beyond species differences to recognize a being in need. And to you, for being willing to trust them when logic suggested otherwise. Zeftar looked at Nixa, who was contentedly working on a complex puzzle while listening to their conversation. Sometimes the most logical thing to do is to trust in something beyond logic, to trust in compassion, hope, and the possibility of healing. When they returned to New Haven, word of the council session had already reached the settlement. Anna and Sarah were waiting at the clinic, along with dozens of colonists who had followed Nixa's recovery with loving attention. "So," Anna asked with a smile, "how did the galactic medical establishment take the news that an elderly veterinarian from Earth had something to teach them?" "With considerably more grace than I expected," Zeftar admitted. "They want to learn everything you can teach them." Sarah laughed. "Wait until they find out that most of what we do is just basic kindness and common sense." "Perhaps," Nixa said through her communication device, "that's exactly what they need to learn." As celebrations continued around them, Zeftar reflected on the extraordinary chain of events that had brought them to this moment. A dying companion had led to a desperate gamble with primitive medicine. That gamble had resulted in unprecedented healing and development, and that development was now changing the entire galaxy's approach to medicine and interspecies relations. But perhaps most remarkably of all, it had started with the simple human conviction that every suffering being deserved compassion, regardless of species, status, or the odds of successful treatment. In the end, the humans had shocked the galaxy not through advanced technology or military might, but through the radical act of caring unconditionally for a sick creature who needed help. They had proven that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was also the simplest: love expressed through action, hope maintained against despair, and the unwavering belief that healing was always worth attempting. As Zeftar watched Nixa play contentedly with the human children who had become her friends, he understood that he had witnessed something far more significant than medical innovation. He had seen the future of galactic civilization, a future where species differences became opportunities for learning rather than barriers to connection, where healing encompassed not just physical repair, but emotional and spiritual growth, and where the simple act of caring for one another could transform not just individuals, but entire societies. The alien had given his sick companion to a human girl in desperation. What had come next had indeed shocked everyone, but in the most wonderful way imaginable.